ready?
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming today. We have a budget announcement regarding legal aid. Minister Shandro.
Thanks, Ethan. And good afternoon, everyone. I just want to begin by starting today's announcement with an opportunity to remember Constables Brett Ryan and Travis Jordan, and to take a minute to reflect on their tragic deaths. As many of you know, in September, at the same time as the National Day for commemorating the fallen law enforcement officers across the country, we had unveiled a new memorial inside the legislature just outside my office. And it's incredibly devastating to consider that this memorial is now going to have 2 new faces added to it. But thank you. Today, I'm pleased to announce that we are investing tens of millions in new funding into Alberta's justice system. An increase to ensure that Albertans can get the legal aid support when they need it. An increase to ensure that Alberta's voice remains strong on its priorities and its interests. An increase to help ensure that when charges enter the criminal justice system, that they meet the standard for prosecution. Now, I strongly believe that all parts of our justice system must reflect the communities that they serve. And by increasing investment in legal aid, civil crown counsel, and crown prosecutors, we're strengthening the justice system, making it more accessible and more reliable for all Albertans. As a lawyer, I understand the vital role a robust legal aid program plays in a justice system. And I've made this a priority for my ministry. We want to make sure that vulnerable Albertans can access the legal aid support and help that they need when they need it. By investing in Albertans' equal access to justice, we're upholding an individual's right to have access to a public system of courts and tribunals to resolve disputes and to protect their rights and their freedoms. Equal access to justice is a bedrock of our democracy. And to that end, a funding increase of $40.3 million would ensure that Albertans accessing Legal Aid Alberta services would be able to access a strong roster of lawyers. This funding will confirm that the tariff, or the rate that roster lawyers are paid to provide legal aid services, reflects current court processes and legal practices, and that compensation and lawyer efforts are properly matched. The matters that come before Legal Aid Alberta are diverse and they're complex. We have to ensure that there are experienced lawyers who are well-versed in a broad range of topics that they can draw from. So $40.3 million in additional funding means that we are improving the lives of many people in our great province, standing up for what we believe in and taking action on what we know to be the right thing to do. And I'm proud to say that our ministry continues to take strides in this direction by investing $20.2 million for more civil crown counsel. Now, these are lawyers who are integral to the work of government. They're drafting grants, they create contracts, they draft legislation, and they stand up for government's interests in court. The increase will help government to address the growing complexity as well as the growing volume of legal work, including protecting Albertans' constitutional rights against federal intrusion on provincial jurisdiction. An effective legal system must be timely and it must be fair. Using $4.6 million from Budget 23, Alberta is hiring 16 more Crown prosecutors to support expanding our pre-charge assessment system. Now, this is a system which helps to ensure that only strong cases move forward in the court system. These changes will save Albertans time, save them money, save them stress, as they don't have to pay to retain counsel or use legal aid. And when it comes to charging someone with an offense, pre-charge assessment, Crown prosecutors will review those charges with law enforcement. They will then provide an assessment to law enforcement, which ultimately decides whether to lay a charge. And we've seen great success with this initiative so far, with about 20% reduction in charges entering into the criminal justice system. Pre-charge assessment results in a focus on the more viable charges, including those considered to be serious and violent. The province-wide rollout to the RCMP detachments is expected to be complete by early 2024. Now, it's clear that the implementation of the pre-charge assessment system, along with hiring more prosecutors, will create efficiencies and will, ultimately, reduce the burden on our courts and all Albertans. So, in conclusion, when we bring all of these elements together, we notice common and interconnected threads that create a stronger, practical, progressive, and even more resilient justice system to serve Albertans around the province. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Minister. We will start with questions in the room. Please approach the mic and give your name, the organization you represent, then ask one question and one follow-up.
That was good acrobatics.
I'm getting too old. Kevin from Global TV. Minister, can I just change subjects for one moment, if that's okay? Okay. Do you have any concerns about the City of Calgary's new safe and inclusive bylaw that's designed to prevent hate-motivated protests at events like the drag readings events in Calgary?
I've been fully briefed on their bylaws. I know that there's been several drafts. I don't have any comment on their bylaw at this time.
Any concerns?
Well, I haven't been fully briefed on it. I haven't read the bylaw myself. So I have no comment on the proposed bylaw. As it passed, it did pass this week. I don't have any comment on this time. I suppose that I would defer comments on municipal bylaws to municipal affairs, the Minister of Municipal Affairs, Rebecca Schultz.
Are there any other questions in the room?
Any on the phone?
They were just starting with the room first.
Yeah, sorry, we were just starting with the room. Operator, can you please put through the first caller?
Sorry, just as soon as you jumped over the...
Jessica Robb, CTV.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. Edmonton has seen quite a few shootings and violent crimes involving firearms over the last few weeks, including the 2 EPS officers killed yesterday. In light of this, are you considering any changes to Bill 8?
Well, first, let me say that this tragedy with Constables Ryan and Jordan just occurred. We don't know all of the details. Obviously, there's a significant investigation that's underway at this time. I have no doubt that we will learn more in the coming days, the coming weeks and months. But as of right now, I think it would be premature and inappropriate to speculate. That's not to say that we should not learn from a tragedy of this magnitude in order to understand what can be done to better keep the public and our police and all first responders safe from a public policy perspective. As more details get released, as the investigation completes, I think there will be more than ample time at that time to discuss all the factors that led to the tragedy and how public safety can be further enhanced.
Do you have a follow-up?
No, thank you.
Okay. Operator, please put through the next caller.
There are no other questions on the line at this time.
No.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Thank you.
Take your time. Sorry, you don't have to rush.
Thank you, Minister. Because you really do. Oh, my God. Mike Sonington, CBC News. Listen, labor strife with lawyers over the past year, legal aid lawyers feeling that their rate card wasn't up. Will this $30 million allow legal aid to function in the way it wants to, and the complaints that we heard over the past year? And will the 19 prosecutors then speed up the list? So my point really being, will the 30 or 40 million be enough, do you think, going forward for legal aid to feel secure as they felt insecure, particularly with the rate card, as you've addressed?
So complicated question and so complicated answer. We have to remember that government's only one contributor to legal aid's budget. And while we were in the middle in 2022 of a modernization of the tariff and all the different items of the tariff, I mean, I think we're 40 items at first. We've now been able to work with legal aid and the legal aid community like the roster lawyers to make sure that what a lawyer is actually compensated for in the tariff or in the as a tariff item is actually in the best interest of the lawyer and ultimately the client. So as that's completed, we heard the advocacy of those who are rostered lawyers and the criminal defense bar in general, because there are criminal defense lawyers who aren't rostered lawyers who still wanted to make sure we heard their voices, that they had a concern with us being able to proceed with an increase in the tariff amount. We did do that. This increase in the budget is going to confirm that what we got as a mid-year increase from last year for that announcement is going to continue for this year. I think there are still opportunities for us to continue to get feedback from roster lawyers in the criminal defense bar on other ways for us to make sure that legal aid is moving in an efficient way to make sure that the items in the tariff are in the best interests of their clients, best interests of the criminal defense bar. And I've heard from some criminal defense lawyers, including rostered lawyers, about further innovative suggestions. So we are encouraging them to continue those conversations with Legal Aid Alberta and their board, their staff, for them to do an analysis and come back to us with any further policy suggestions. If they do make a change, of course, it does need the minister to sign off on it, but I do want the criminal defense bar to be working with legal aid staff to be able to do that further work.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.